ahora que a figura pública que por favor, Emely Peguero, por favor, donde quiera que te encuentres, por favor aparezca que estamos esperando con los brazos abiertos. Estamos preocupados por ti. Te necesitamos. Vas a tener todo el apoyo del mundo cuando vengas. Por favor.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing super well. Thank you all so much for being here and for being such amazing members of La Familia. I'm so grateful for you guys because you guys are always so empathetic and help me spread awareness on these very important cases. So I just want to let you guys know again that I appreciate you all so much. Today we're going to be talking about what happened to Emely Peguero. This is a very highly requested case after I posted my video on Brenda Gordillo. So many people were commenting and sending me messages on Instagram telling me how what happened to Brenda was very similar to what happened to Emely. Wow, the fact that this is such a common thing that happens is extremely disturbing. It's just truly frightening how dangerous things can get for women who are pregnant. Now, BuzzFeed News wrote a really great article about what happened to Emely. It was written by journalist Rosalind Warren, who was a 2018 Adelante Latin America reporting fellow with the International Women's Media Foundation. She did an excellent job breaking down this case, so I will have her article linked down below so you guys can check it out. There's also this 40-minute interview that Emely's dad did with the YouTube channel, so I will also have that link down below if you guys want to go listen to it and show that channel some support as well. So again, that will be linked down below along with all of my other sources as well as some organizations that speak about femicides. Now, real quick before we do get into the video, I just want to take a quick moment to thank today's sponsor who helped support this channel and the team behind it. Thank you to Homoglow for sponsoring today's video. You guys, spring is here, which means that it's time for some spring cleaning. There are so many spots around my house that I really want to spruce up. I'm actually having some family come visit me this spring, so there's lots of cleaning to do. Thankfully, Homoglow has my back. While they do the cleaning, I can sit back to work on my videos. I have more time to cook, more time to work out, and more time to also plan my wedding. Homoglow is a 5-star cleaning service with super affordable prices. I love that you can do everything online because it allows you to instantly schedule a cleaner in your area for a special occasion. Whether you're having a party, hosting a dinner with your friends, or you can also just use them regularly to help take something off your plate. It's also a great way to support cleaners in your community, and 100% of the cleaning fees and the tips go directly to your cleaner. So, how does it work? Just head over to Homoglow's website to choose the day or time you're looking for, choose the duration of your cleaning, and then you'll see all the available cleaners in your area. Next step is to schedule your cleaning service, which can be as quickly as this week or in the next few months. I like that you can also see pictures and reviews of the cleaners before choosing them. They also offer a Forever Clean membership, which saves you $30 an hour on all future cleanings and lets you book unlimited cleaning services starting at $19 an hour, which is backed by Homoglow's happiness guarantee. It was so easy to schedule my cleaning service, and I also felt very safe doing so since I was able to read reviews of the cleaners, look at their photos, look at their experience beforehand, and it just made me feel better about who was coming into my home. Homoglow is the perfect solution for anyone who is doing spring cleaning, whether you're doing a deep cleaning or just need a light cleaning. Take home cleaning off your plate this spring by using Homoglow. Head to homoglow.com/Jackie Flores or scan the QR code to get your first 3 hours of cleaning for only $19. Thank you again to Homoglow for sponsoring today's video and helping support this channel. And now let's jump right in and let's talk about what happened to Emely. Emmy del Carmen Peguero Polanco was born on July 12, 2001 in the city of Cenoví, which is located in the Dominican Republic. She was born to her mother Adalgisa Polanco and to her father Genaro. So her full name is Emmy del Carmen, but her friends and her family would call her Emily, so she would go by Emily, and that's what I'm going to call her in this video. Everyone describes Emily as just being absolutely beautiful, very kind, loving, and just someone that was so bright. She honestly did have this really big, beautiful smile, and she also had these really cute dimples just like her mom. One of her dreams was to become a lawyer when she grew up because she just really wanted to help people. She wanted to kind of do like pro bono work when she grew up and just help people that didn't have the resources to hire these big fancy lawyers. So just with that, you can tell what type of person Emily was. Emily was just very humble and just always wanted to do something better for the world. Emily lived in, a very humble, tiny home with her family, and it actually had this really beautiful painted mural of a butterfly on the front-facing wall. Emily loved to attend school. She was a social butterfly. She enjoyed cooking, spending time with her friends, spending time with her family, and she was also part of Folklorico, which which, fun fact, I did do that for I think like one semester. It definitely was not for me. Like, I'm not the best at dancing, but it's just an absolutely beautiful thing. And Emely just loved doing her makeup for these dances and just performing for her friends and family. Oh, Emely also had this really cute chihuahua named Momo. They were literally like best friends. Like, anywhere Emely would walk around the house, Momo would follow after her. Now, a little bit more about Emely's family. She had 2 older siblings, a sister and a brother. So she was the baby of the family and she was really close to her siblings. Honestly, the entire family was really close with each other. Just watching interviews with the family speaking about what happened to Emely and just watching them comfort each other was very hard to do so, and it just made you feel so emotional because even just through the screen, you can feel how much love they have for each other. The family wasn't in the best financial situation. They didn't have a lot of money. Emely's parents were juggling these low-paid jobs, and it was just kind of hard for them to get through. Despite this, the family was genuinely happy, and no matter what was going on with their finances, Emely's parents did their best to give their children everything. You know, they just wanted their children to feel happy, to feel love, and they did a great job of doing that. I was watching this interview with Emely's dad, Genaro, and it just makes you tear up because he was talking about this beautiful memory that he has with Emely where every single day before going to work, he would go into Emely's bedroom and kiss her on the forehead as a way of saying goodbye, and that was just something that was a part of their daily routine. And it even got to one point where Emely would just start standing in the doorway waiting for her dad to come do that. So I don't know, I think that's just such a beautiful memory and a beautiful thing that he had with his daughter. Now let's fast forward to when Emely is 15 years old. This is when she began dating 18-year-old Marlon Martinez. Now Marlon was actually her neighbor, so he lived across the street from Emely and they had known each other since they were children. So let's talk a little bit about Marlon. He was actually born in the United States, and when he was about 8 or 9 years old, his family moved back to the Dominican Republic, and that's when he moved across the street from Emely. Now, even though they were living across the street from each other, they came from pretty much different worlds. As I mentioned earlier, Emely's family was just extremely hardworking. Her parents were doing whatever they could to support the family, and things were hard for them, so they just had a completely different financial journey than Marlon's family had. Marlon came from a pretty well-off family. He lived in this really nice house that was closed off by a large gate, and he had this really nice front garden. His mother, Marlene, worked in politics, and she was just very well known around the city. I know their names are really similar. Like, as I was doing the research for this case, I kept kind of getting confused between Marlon and Marlene because it's kind of like a tongue twister. So Marlon is the son that is dating Emely, and then his mother is Marlene. So yeah, Marlene was very well known in the community. She was into politics, so she was a part of a lot of campaigns in the city. And at the time that all of this happened, she was actually working very high up in the passports department. So again, she just knew a lot of people. She had these very big connections. There was actually reports that I saw while doing the research for this case that Marlene was a little bit sus. Some articles state that she actually had a scheme going on to help people get visas, kind of like under the table. And there was actually a handful of people that were interviewed speaking about Marlene and how she helped them do certain things or how she helped them get visas under the table and just kind of do sketchy stuff. So she's never been arrested for doing these things, but people have come out and spoken about it and said that she was, you know, doing something under the table and just was kind of a sketchy person. So honestly, it wouldn't surprise me to hear that this was true because Marlene was honestly not the nicest person. As I mentioned, they lived across the street from Emely's family, so they started to get to know each other pretty well because they were neighbors. At one point, Emely's dad actually started to work as Marlene's private security guard, and he has spoken out about his time as Marlene's employee, and he was like, oh my gosh, this is like miserable. This woman is so aggressive. She doesn't speak right about people. She doesn't speak right to people. In fact, she treats people very poorly. And he is saying that he saw all of this firsthand while working for her, and that Marlene thinks that she's just above others because she works in politics and because she has money. So because she has those things going on for her, she thinks that she can pretty much get away with anything because she has money and connections. Now, trust me, we are going to do a deep dive into Marlene a little bit later in this video because this lady is actually so evil. A lot of people have actually referred to her as the devil, and honestly, I don't blame them. Now, since Marlene was very busy with her job in politics and with everything else that was going on in her career, she would often need help taking care of her 3 children. So she had Marlon as one of her sons, and then she also had 2 other sons. So again, in total, 3 children. So when she would be really busy at at work, she would actually drop Marlon and her other two sons off at Emely's house. That way Emely's parents could watch the children and then the children could play with their children. So again, this just kind of reiterates how close the families truly were. The fact that Marlene felt comfortable enough leaving her children in the care of Emely's family means that she confided in these people and trusted them. It actually got to the point where some nights Adalgisa, Emily's mother, would actually put Marlon and his two siblings to bed. Like she would literally tuck them in, brush their teeth, do the entire routine. So because of how often Marlon and his siblings were at Emily's house, all of the children started to get really close to each other. They would all play together when they were little, but as they started to get older, they kind of started to disconnect from each other a little bit. They would basically only see each other in passing, around the neighborhood and things like that, so they weren't as close to each other anymore. However, when Emely turned 15 years old and Marlon turned 18 years old, they started talking again, hanging out a little bit more, and then they began to date. A lot of people are shocked with that age gap, especially because the age of consent in the Dominican Republic is 18 years old. So obviously Emely is a minor at this point and Marlon is an adult now, so he really should not be anywhere near a 15-year-old. As for how Emely's family felt about this relationship, they really were not a fan. Emily's mother was kind of on board. She didn't really have a problem with Marlon, but she did have a problem with his mother, Marlene. As I mentioned earlier, she was kind of an aggressive lady. People around the neighborhood weren't really a fan of her. She actually got into a fight with one of her neighbors just a few weeks before all of this happened, so a lot of people were not a fan of Marlene. However, regardless of how Marlene was as a mother, Adalgisa really had no problem with Marlon himself. Like, he seemed just like a normal dude. Again, this is someone that she pretty much helped raise, so she saw Marlon in a different light than she saw his mother. As for Emily's dad, he was just not on board with this relationship whatsoever. Just like Emily's mom, he was not a fan of Marlene. He also felt like she was very judgmental and that she really looked down on poor people, so he just didn't feel comfortable with his daughter dating someone who had that type of mother with that type of outlook on life and with those type of opinions. Genaro said, quote, "I never liked their relationship because I always felt like his mom was very judgmental. But Emely said that she was in love with him and that the heart wants what it wants." End quote. So again, just to recap, because I know that was a lot of information, Emely and Marlon began dating when she was 15 and he was 18 years old. Fast forward to 2017, Emely is now 16 years old and Marlon is now 19 years old. Their relationship seemed to be going well, like everything was kind of normal, but then in early 2017, something shocking occurred. This is when the pair found out that Emely was pregnant. This was just very shocking to them. I mean, Emely is only 16 years old, which is an extremely young age, and Emely was very worried about having this baby. Again, she's super young, and just thinking about how they're going to pay for this baby and tell their parents about this, it was honestly very overwhelming. Now, as for their options, there really weren't that many. Abortion is not legal in the Dominican Republic, so Emely knew that one way or another, she was going to have to give birth to this baby. Emely did end up telling her mom about this pregnancy, and she also told her sister. I'm not sure if her brother knew right away, but what I do know is that her father had no idea. It wasn't actually until Emely was 5 months pregnant that her father finally heard the news. Genaro said that one day on his lunch break, he decided to come home to go eat with his family, and when he walked inside the kitchen, he could just tell that something was bothering his wife, Adalgisa. So he asked her, what's going on? And that's when Adalgisa just very nervously said, "Listen, there's something that we need to tell you. Emely is pregnant. She is 5 months pregnant right now, and she's expecting a baby boy." Genaro said that when he heard that, he was just like, huh? Like, what? My 16-year-old daughter is pregnant. The baby of our family is pregnant and is gonna have a baby. He said that he just needed like a moment to calm down and kind of take all this in because it's just a lot. And it's totally understandable. I mean, to find out that your 16-year-old child is going to be a parent, it's definitely very shocking news to take in. So he just needed a couple of minutes to kind of like collect himself. He says that he honestly didn't even really want to talk about the pregnancy. And what's really sad is that he actually didn't find out that his daughter was pregnant until until 9 days before she disappeared. So by the time he found out that Emely was pregnant and by the time she disappeared, there just wasn't that much time for them to sit down and talk about this as daughter and father. There was just one time that Emely approached her dad during this 9-day period and said, "Hey, Marlon wants to come over here to speak to you about this." And the dad was like, "No, like, don't bring him here. I'm not ready to talk about this yet. I have nothing to say to him." Emely was like, "Okay, that's fine. Like, let me give you your space." However, later that night, Marlon's stepfather, Roberto, came over and was like, "Hey, as your neighbor and as the other grandpa in the situation, let's talk about this pregnancy and let's just figure it out together." Genaro agreed to this meeting and Roberto was like, "Okay, let me call over Marlon so he can come over and talk to you face to face." So the three of them got together and they basically just had an open conversation about Emely's pregnancy. Marlon told Genaro that he was going to be responsible for this baby, that he was going to take care of Emely and the baby, and that everything was going to be okay. Roberto also chimed in and said that he was going to help his stepson as much as he could to take care of the baby and that he was going to support them as much as possible. So this conversation was basically supposed to calm down Genaro and just make him feel like better about the entire situation. It did kind of calm him down, but he was also like, "Guys, Emely is 16 years old. She is still a minor. She is still the baby of the family. She's not going to move out. Like, she is not living with you. She's going to stay here with the baby. We'll figure out a schedule and a system of how to work it around the baby, but Emely is staying here." I definitely understand his perspective on this. He still sees Emely as his baby, and again, she's a baby of the family, so just because she's pregnant and she's going to be giving birth doesn't mean that he was ready to let her go and just let her move out and just leave everything behind. He still wanted Emely living under his roof, and again, just the relationship between Emely and her dad, it just warms my heart because they just absolutely loved each other and Genaro would have done anything for her. In the interview that I have linked down below, the reporter asked, "Did you guys support this pregnancy? Were you happy that she was pregnant at such a young age?" And Genaro was like, "What were we supposed to do? Just kick her out onto the curb and just let her fend for herself? No, she's our daughter. We love her. We're going to support her through this." I mean, it's not like they really had that many options. So that's kind of the perspective that Emely's parents had about the pregnancy. Marlon seemed to be on board with this because, again, he literally told Genaro that he was going to be responsible for his daughter and for his grandsons. So it seemed like he was going to take responsibility for this. The one person that was truly not happy about this pregnancy was Marlon's mom, Marlene. She was not happy at all with this. She felt like her son was making a big mistake, that her son should have never gotten Emely pregnant, that this baby was basically going to ruin his college and just ruin his future. And she was also really worried about the family's reputation because she was thinking, "Oh my goodness, what are people going to think? Like, my son got this girl pregnant and she comes from a poor family. Like, people are going to think that we're associated with them and that we're also poor." She was honestly just really worried about her reputation and just didn't want people to know that her son was involved with this girl who was from a poor family. So now let's fast forward to August 23rd, 2017. It's about 8:30 in the morning and 16-year-old Emely is getting ready to go out with her 19-year-old boyfriend, Marlon. It was super early in the morning and Emely's mom was looking at her getting ready and asked her, "Where are you going?" And that's when Emely explained that Marlon was waiting for her outside the house, that he was going to take her to a doctor's appointment to go pick up some lab results, and that she would be back home later that morning. Adalgisa agreed with this plan and she walked Emely to the front door, saw her walk over to Marlon's house, who again was living across the street, get in the car, and then the two of them were off. Everyone continued on with their morning. You know, Emely's family was just doing their normal routine, you know, going to work, making breakfast, cleaning the house, starting things for lunch, and that's when they realized that Emely was still not home yet, which was very odd because Emely would never stay out all day long without communicating with her family about what was going on. So if she was gonna stay out to go to the mall or to like go hang out with her friends or something like that, she would have texted her mom or called her mom or her dad or someone to let them know, "Hey, I'm running late. I'm not gonna be home until this time." However, no one had heard from Emely for a couple of hours, so this is when they started to get very concerned. And that's when Emily's sister said that at around 11:23 that morning, she got a text message from Emely stating that Marlon had left her at a gas station because she was going to go meet up with one of their uncles and to notify mom. Now, their mom takes a look at this text message and she's just like, no, this does not make sense. There was actually a couple of things wrong with this message. First of all, they said that Emely would rarely send text messages, that she would normally send voice notes, so the fact that she typed something out was really weird. Second, the writing of the message just didn't really make sense and it just didn't sound like Emely. Third, they were like, what uncle? Like, what uncle is Emely meeting with and why don't we know about this meeting? Why have none of the uncles come forward and said, hey, I was with Emely today? I mean, this entire thing just seemed very odd. The mom just knew that something was off, so she tells the sister to go across the street to see if Marlon is home, and if he is home, to ask him, where is Emely? So the sister goes across the street, she knocks on the door, and Marlon comes out. He starts explaining to Emily's sister that morning when they were heading to the clinic, Emely realized that she got her dates mixed up and that her lab results weren't going to be ready until Friday, not on Wednesday. So she told Marlon, hey, I got the dates mixed up, let's just go back home. So they started driving back home, and as they were doing that, Emely asked him if he could drop her off at a gas station because her uncle was going to pick her up so that they could go do some errands. Marlon agreed to this. He drove her to a gas station, dropped her off, gave her 200 pesos just in case she needed it, and then waited for Emily's uncle to pick her up. He said that eventually a vehicle did arrive and he just assumed it was Emily's uncle. Emely got inside and that was it. That was the last time that he saw her. As soon as Emily's sister heard this, she just knew that something about this story was very suspicious. The entire thing just didn't make sense whatsoever. Like, why wouldn't Emely just tell her uncle, hey, pick me up at the house? Like, why would she ask to get dropped off and then just wait for the uncle there? So the sister goes back home. She tells her mom about this story, and the mom is like, okay, let's drive to the gas station and let's ask the employees if they have seen Emely. So they get to the gas station. They ask the employees to go get the surveillance footage, and the employees bring it out to them. They start watching the footage, and this is when they realize that Emely is nowhere on the surveillance footage. Not only is Emely not on this footage, but neither is Marlon. Did Marlon accidentally tell them the incorrect gas station, or was this entire story a lie? After seeing the surveillance footage and realizing that Emely was never there, Adalgisa decided to pick up the phone and report her daughter as missing. Right away, Emily's family was on it. You know, they were speaking to the media about Emily's disappearance. They were spreading flyers throughout the community. The neighbors were coming together to also spread the word. Everyone was on it because a 16-year-old pregnant girl was now missing. Now, Emily's family wasn't thinking that she had been abducted by a stranger or that she was in some type of accident. Right from the start, Emily's family were thinking that Marlon had something to do with this. Not only did they suspect that Marlon was involved with Emily's disappearance, but they also suspected that his mother, Marlene, was involved. Adalgisa spoke out to the news and she said that Marlon and Marlene knew exactly where her daughter was, but that they were refusing to give her back to them. The news reporters were like, why would they do this so? Like, why would they want to take your daughter? And that's when Adalgisa said it's because they didn't want her to have her baby. That they just simply didn't want her to give birth, so they probably took her to get an abortion and something went wrong and now they don't want to tell the truth. Adalgisa specifically said que me devuelvan a mi niña. Tiene 5 meses de embarazo y yo supongo que fue para abortar que él se la llevó. Which means she is 5 months pregnant. They need to give her back to me. I assume he took her so she could have an abortion. Now, according to Emily's father, Genaro, he told the BBC Mundo that he actually found some text messages between Emely and Marlene where she was asking her to have an abortion. I will put a screenshot of the text messages here. These messages were on August 19th, 2017, so this conversation happened just 4 days before Emely went missing. A lot of people have some doubts about this conversation, about whether or not Emely actually felt this way or if she was just agreeing with Marlene because because she felt manipulated by her. So there's kind of some controversy with these text messages, but basically Marlene texted Emely saying, "Hey Emely," and that's when Emely replied saying, "Yes, Marlene," and then sent her a voice message. Marlene then responded to the voice message by saying, quote, "Are you ready for the abortion?" Emely said, "No, I don't want it." And that's when Marlene said, "Don't worry, be calm. President Danilo will protect us." So that's when Emely said, "Okay, I trust you, Marlene." Marlene replied by saying, "Yes, we will do the abortion at my house. The doctor is almost here." Now, again, the conversation is pretty intense. They are talking about a very serious topic, and when Genaro found these text messages, that just further strengthened his suspicions and the family's suspicions against Marlene and Marlon, because at this point they're thinking, oh my god, they literally took our daughter because they wanted to give her an abortion and then something went wrong. Not only were those text messages very suspicious, but the day Emely went missing and was reported as missing, Marlon's family hired an attorney. Emely's family thought this was so weird. They were like, why did they already hire an attorney when all we know right now is that Emely is missing? We don't even know if she's dead or if something happened to her, but the family is already trying to protect themselves. Why? Emely's family was just so worried and scared and just thinking about whether or not Emely was safe, whether she was healthy, whether her baby was healthy. This was just such a very serious and scary situation. Her dad said that he just couldn't stop crying and that he felt like he had to cry in private because, he's the father of the family, the man of the household. So he felt that if everyone else saw him crying and saw him heartbroken over this, then everyone else would also feel that way and there really wouldn't be any more hope. It's really sad to think that he felt like that. He felt like he had to cry in private over the disappearance of his pregnant daughter. Within 24 hours of Emely's disappearance, the news got a hold of this. The community knew about it. Again, everyone was just so worried about Emely's safety. And at this point, even the news and the community started to suspect that her boyfriend Marlon and his mother were involved. So, what did Marlon and his mother Marlene do to address these rumors and prove their innocence? Well, they decided to hold a press conference. This is the first time that I've ever heard something like this before, but again, Marlene has a lot of connections, so she actually invited a couple of news reporters to come to her house to conduct this press conference. The press conference was held in their living room, and Marlon was dressed pretty casual. He was just wearing like a gray t-shirt. He was staring down throughout the entire interview. He didn't really want to make eye contact with the camera or the reporters. To a lot of people, he also appeared very nervous. He was just kind of shaky and he just didn't look well. As for Marlene, she was wearing this professional suit. She had her hair done and she honestly seemed more confident while speaking, and she kind of took the lead in the press conference. The reporters asked Marlon to describe the last time that he saw his girlfriend, and he basically explained everything that I have already mentioned earlier about how they were driving to the clinic when Emely realized she got the dates confused, how he dropped her off at the gas station, etc. After describing this last moment with Emely, he then decided to finally look into the camera and he began pleading for her to come back home. He said, quote, "We've had problems, but problems that are common to all couples. We accepted her pregnancy. We said we'd continue forward. I want to now make a public announcement. Emely Peguero, wherever you are, please show up. We are all waiting for you with our arms wide open. You will have everyone's support when you come back home." End quote.
Ahora que a figura pública, que por favor, Emely Peguero, por favor, donde quiera que te encuentres, por favor aparezca, que estamos esperando con los brazos abiertos. Estamos preocupados por ti. Te necesitamos. Vas a tener todo el apoyo del mundo cuando vengas. Por favor.
After this, his mother spoke out and said that what the media was saying was absolutely not true, that they had nothing to do with Emely's disappearance, and that, in fact, the day that Emely went missing, Marlene was actually with Emely's grandmother. Because again, the families were pretty close to each other, so that morning, Marlene had actually taken Emely's grandmother to the consulate to get some paperwork done. I'm not really sure what she was doing, but either way, they were together that morning, so Marlene used this as her alibi. She was like, well, how would I be involved in Emely's disappearance if I was literally with her grandmother that morning? She also just kept emphasizing how close Emely was with the family and how much they loved her and how much they supported her. Madeleine specifically said, quote, "She was already a part of us and she was my son's girlfriend, is my son's girlfriend. She was 5 months pregnant and when we found out, we gave her our support. I understand how her parents feel and we even feel worse. Wherever you are, Emely, don't make us suffer anymore." She even kind of started to choke up while she was talking about this, and it seems like she was trying to hold back her tears. She also said that if anyone knew where Emely was or what happened to her, to please speak up and just bring Emely home. She also went on to say that anyone who wants to interview her or her son or question them, they are more than welcome to because they are innocent and all they want to do is help find Emely.
En ningún momento mi hijo y yo hemos dado la espalda a la situación porque ya ella era parte de nosotros. Ella era la novia de mi hijo. Es la novia de mi hijo actual. Yo me siento totalmente, desde que supe la situación, lo que hice fue acudir al llamado de la gente de Cenoví, que son mi gente, y donde entiendo que me siento igual o peor de cómo ellos se sienten.
Honestly, a lot of people just felt like this press conference was really weird. They, first of all, just felt it was odd that Marlene and Marlon decided to hold this press conference in their living room without Emely's family there. Because people felt like, if they really were supportive of Emily and on Emily's side, they would have held this press conference with Emily's family and maybe use this as a chance for Emily's family to speak out and spread more awareness. So, I don't know, a lot of people just felt like this was a really weird press conference and that their behavior in it was just not normal. They also noticed how Marlene said Emely was my son's girlfriend and then quickly corrected herself and said is, as if she caught herself speaking in past tense, which is something that they kind of did a lot throughout this press conference. Both of them did refer to Emely in past tense. So again, everyone just felt like this press conference was really weird and it really did not calm down anybody's suspicions. People were still pointing the finger at Marlon and his mother Marlene. They felt like this is a case where a wealthy, powerful family decided to just get rid of a young, poor girl because they wanted to save their family's reputation. They probably thought that no one would care or look for Emely since she was from a poor family. So in their minds, they probably felt like all of this could just get swept under the rug and nobody would notice. But they were wrong. People were noticing. People did care about this. People cared about Emely. And there was now so many protests being held because people thought that this was one of the most evil things someone could have done. To kidnap and possibly murder a pregnant girl just to save your reputation is just absolutely evil and just such a vile thing to do. The suspicions and the finger pointing just got too much that Marlon actually turned himself in and was arrested on August 26, 2017. He knew that one way or another the police were going to arrest him, so he decided to just turn himself in and, in a way, get ahead of the police. After his arrest, he was placed in preventative prison for 3 months, and now that he was behind bars, everyone's main question was, what happened to Emely, and is she still alive? Detectives were doing whatever they could to track down Emely and figure out what happened. About 5 days after her disappearance on Monday, August 28th, police were able to track down Emily's cell phone, and it was actually pinging to an apartment building in a very wealthy area. Police head over to this apartment building and guess who lived there? Yep, Marlon's mother, Marlene. So Marlon lived with his stepdad Roberto across the street from Emely, but Marlene would sometimes stay at this apartment because she was always traveling for work and just very busy. So she had this very luxurious apartment that she would stay at most of the time. So police pull up to this apartment and they go inside to look for evidence. That's when they end up finding a mattress and some towels that had blood on it. They then sent these items to the forensics lab just to confirm that this blood did belong to Emely. While they waited for those results to come back, police just felt like this wasn't looking good. Even though they were waiting for the results to confirm that this was, belonging to Emely, they just knew. They just knew that this blood probably was hers and that Emely was probably no longer alive. Now, 2 days after this, on August 30th, a security guard that worked for the building named Kelvin came forward and revealed some very shocking information. He said that on the day Emely went missing on August 23rd, he saw on surveillance footage that Marlon was carrying a sack out of the apartment building. Now, this sack seemed pretty big and it was very concerning for him to see this. It just honestly seemed like it could have been a body body. So after seeing Marlon carrying this sack on surveillance footage, he decided to call his mom, Marlene, to let her know what her son was doing. Marlene goes down to the front office to look at the surveillance footage, and Calvin says that when she was looking at the footage, she just put her hands on her head and she just seemed so stressed out. She started shaking and she also started screaming, "What has my son done?" After this, he says that the footage disappeared. He says that he has no idea what happened to the video and that it pretty much no longer exists. A lot of people believe that maybe Marlene just quickly took the disc out and hoped that no one would notice, or that maybe she snuck back in there later that day to take the disc as a way to get rid of evidence. No one really knows what happened with this video, and it's just insane how it's no longer available. Now, the same day that Calvin told police this information, Marlene actually walked into the police station and turned herself in. Now, her lawyer says that the only reason she did this is because she wanted to cooperate with the police, but a lot of people feel like she did this for the same reason that Marlon did, because they both knew that they were going to be caught soon, so they just figured they would turn themselves in. When she was arrested, a reporter asked her if she was involved in Emely's disappearance, and she replied saying, quote, "I'm not an accomplice. I would never. I only acted like a mother." End quote. Which honestly rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, because she was basically saying, you know, I'm a mother, I would do anything for my child, and the reason I did what I did is because I'm a mom and moms are supposed to do this. A lot of people just didn't agree with this. They were like, no, if my son committed a crime, I would not help them cover this up. I would turn my son in and let him deal with his own consequences. Honestly, August 30th was a very busy day, because not only did Kelvin tell police the information about the security tape, not only did Marlene turn herself into the police and was arrested, but later that same day, her son Marlon actually confessed and told police everything. Unfortunately, this is when Emely's family's worst fears were confirmed. Marlon told police that he killed Emely and left her body in a local landfill. Hearing this just absolutely shocked everyone and broke their hearts, because at this point, everyone was still holding on to hope that Emely was still alive and that her baby was still alive and that everything would be okay. But now that Marlon confessed to killing her and leaving her body in a landfill, everyone was just absolutely heartbroken. Police drove to that local landfill to look for Emely's body, and they basically spent about 7 to 9 hours searching through this landfill, but there was just so much to go through. I'll put some photos here of how big this landfill was, so it was a lot to dig through, and in the end, they didn't find anything that would indicate to them that Emely was actually there, so they kind of just gave up. The next morning on August 31st, residents woke up just absolutely angry. By 9 a.m., members of the community were walking the roads, they were stopping traffic, and just calling for Marlon to tell police where he actually left the body and to stop playing with the family's emotions. You know, people started burning tires, they were throwing rocks at the police, they were trying to destroy Marlon's home and just kind of show the police like, hey, we're not gonna let this just kind of sweep away and just be forgotten about. We need answers. Where is Emely? Police officers actually had to get dressed in riot gear to disperse the growing crowds and just to kind of calm everyone down. The community just felt like Marlon knew exactly where he left Emely's body, but that he was lying to kind of play with the police and to also play with Emely's family, which is just such a sick thing to do. All everyone was asking was just to find Emely's body and have her body be returned to her family. And that's actually what happened later that day on August 31st. Emely's older brother, Eugenio, started to receive a bunch of text messages from people telling him that they had heard that a body had been found in the province of Espaillat, which is about an hour drive from Sanovi. I honestly cannot imagine receiving those type of text messages. I get that people just wanted to help the family get closure and things like that, but just imagine being bombarded with messages from people telling you that they found your sister's body. It's just a lot. So Eugenio and a couple of other relatives actually drive to this location to see if this is actually true. When they get there at around 8 p.m., they walk up to a crowd of police officers who are standing around an abandoned suitcase found on the side of the road. And unfortunately, inside this suitcase was Emely. Everyone was just shocked by the scene. They just couldn't believe that this was real. While doing the research for this case, a lot of articles actually included the unblurred photo of Emely inside the suitcase, which was really shocking to to see as I was doing my research, because normally they blur the photos or don't really include graphic images like that, but a lot of articles did include it, so just be careful if you guys do your research later on. I do just want to warn you that you may come across that photo, and it's very, very triggering. It honestly just broke my heart and everyone's heart to think about how this 16-year-old girl was just stuffed inside the suitcase and then left on the side of the road as if she was nothing. Just stuffed inside this suitcase with her unborn baby. It's absolutely terrible. So after retrieving Emely's body, the autopsy was conducted pretty quickly, and it revealed that Emely had experienced internal bleeding believed to have come from a botched abortion. So she had very severe trauma to her abdomen, and she also had blunt force trauma to her skull. According to the forensics unit, Emely's death was very violent but also very quick. They also don't know if the fracture she received to her skull happened before or after her death. Unfortunately, Emely's family and the public were right from the start. All of this did happen because Marlon and his mom, Marlene, did not want to have this baby, and they were adamant on having Emely get an abortion. When the news of Emely's body being found in the suitcase and the results of her autopsy were released to the public, everyone was just absolutely livid. People were posting her photo all over social media talking about what happened. They were spreading awareness on violence against women, on how it can just be very dangerous to be pregnant, on how the wealthy don't care about what happens to poor people. It was all very intense, and there were honestly thousands of people around the world talking about Emely's case. Her family actually started a hashtag campaign called Todos Somos Emely, which means we are all Emely, and they encourage people to share this hashtag with their own stories about violence and also just show support for Emely's family. Cardi B actually spoke out about this as well, who is Dominican, and she shared a post on Instagram about Emely where she put the caption, quote, "What would you do to keep a clean image and reputation? Make a 15-year-old girl get an abortion and so they don't find out that your 19-year-old son got a minor pregnant." End quote. I have such a vivid memory of Cardi B posting this on Instagram. I will have it linked down below if I can still find the direct link. But Cardi B spoke out about this, as well as a handful of other celebrities. The Dominican community from New York was also very active during this time. There were a handful of vigils held in honor of Emely, and one protester said, quote, "Once again, our community is stained with the blood of one of our own." People were so angry, and everyone was now wondering who conducted the abortion. You know, there had to have been a doctor, or at least someone that had some type of medical knowledge there to be able to do this to Emely. A lot of people actually started to suspect that maybe her gynecologist was involved, and that maybe the gynecologist like teamed up with Marlene and with Marlon to do this to Emely. The gynecologist was named Annie, and she actually had to come out with a press conference as well to speak out and deny all of these allegations. Annie said that she only saw Emely one time, that this is when Emely was 5 months pregnant, that it was just a regular consultation, and that Emely's mother was there the entire time. She added that Emely was perfectly fine, that the baby was healthy at this appointment, and that she told Emely the next time she would see her would be on Friday, September 1st, so that they could go over some analysis that they had conducted. Annie was adamant that she only saw Emely that one time and that she never recommended Emely to get an abortion. I mean, people were literally coming after Annie's career. People were bombarding her job, they were trying to get her license revoked. It was all really intense. I honestly believe her. The police believe her as well because she was never arrested. Now, going back to Emely's family, they continued to spread awareness on what happened to Emely, on violence against women, on the dangers of being pregnant in these type of relationships, and they were receiving so much support from the community. But at the end of the day, no matter how much support that they received, no matter how many times people used the hashtag, the reality was that Emely was gone. They just didn't understand how this happened, and they just couldn't believe that this did happen because they never expected one of their children to be killed. They never thought that they would be the type of family to be doing protests and be doing interviews with the media and just doing all of this. It's honestly just so much for anybody to go through, and it was really hard for them to continue to live their life while also dealing with this very, very tragic situation. They also had to plan Emely's funeral, which was a very difficult thing to do. So many people showed up to the funeral with pink balloons and with gifts for Emely's family and gifts for her coffin and flowers, and it was honestly just a very heavy day for everyone. People wanted to give her family as much love and support that day, but again, it was just a really, really sad day. Her family buried her in a white coffin. They said a couple of words to her, and then they buried her. I know, it's a lot. This is just one of those cases where you're just like, what the heck? Actually, what is wrong with people? If Marlene really wanted Emely to have this abortion, she should have spoken to Emely's family. She can't just take a young girl. She just can't take a minor and just do this abortion behind her family's back. It's just insane that she thought that she would get away with this because of her money and because of her connections. I'm so happy that the community really just rallied together to speak out about this and just put pressure on the police and put pressure on the judicial system to not let Marlon and Marlene get away with this. Now, police still had a lot of questions that needed answers. They did not know how Emely got inside that suitcase and then was placed on the side of the road. Because again, Marlene and Marlon were behind bars at this point, so someone must have helped them move Emely's body. Police were also wondering who assisted them with the abortion. Did they hire a doctor to help with this? Did they hire a nurse? Again, there's just so many questions that police needed answers to, and in the end, along with Marlon and Marlene's arrest, police also arrested a couple of other people for their involvement. In total, there were 4 other people also arrested for the murder of Emely. 2 of them were employees of the family, Maria and Sugel, and then the third person was actually Marlene's brother, Henry. As for the 4th person, his name was Simon Bolivar, and he was actually just a friend of the family. Now, one of the employees that was arrested is Maria, and she was actually Marlene's personal stylist, and she came out and said that Marlene asked her to take 100,000 pesos to a man named Simon. He told police that he would tell them everything and that he would even be a witness at the trial if they just gave him a lighter sentence. In the end, I believe Simon only did 6 months in preventative prison, and then he was released because of his cooperation. As for Marlene's brother, Henry, he actually tried to flee the country, but he was arrested at the airport. So yeah, definitely not suspicious. The police believe that he also helped move and hide Emely's body, but in the end, he was not formally charged for anything because he also agreed to be a witness and cooperate with the police. As for Maria and the other employee that was arrested, they were also not formally charged with anything. In the end, Marlon and his mother Marlene were the only 2 going to trial for the murder of Emely. The trial was very intense. Every single day something happened, whether that was a protest outside of the courtroom, whether a defense attorney dropped out, whether Emely's family would boycott some hearings. Every single day, it was just such an intense journey for the family and for the community. People were threatening Marlon and his mom, and it actually got to the point where Marlene had to wear a bulletproof jacket and a helmet in court, and was basically surrounded with armed bodyguards at all times because of how much people were threatening her. So let's get into this trial. What Marlon had originally stated from the start was obviously not true. He never took Emely to the gas station. He never dropped her off there because she was going to meet with her uncle. That was all a complete lie. On top of that, the prosecution also revealed that he was the one that was texting Emely's sister off her cell phone, which is just absolutely disturbing and sick to think about. It's just very disturbing to think about when a killer starts to kind of pass off as the victim. Emely's family's intuition was right when they were thinking, you know, hey, this is not Emely texting us. They were right. It wasn't Emely. So this is what the prosecution says happened on August 23rd. That morning, Marlon took Emely to his mom's empty apartment and then forced her to drink an unknown liquid that would induce an abortion. This unknown liquid then caused her to have some internal bleeding, which started to make Emely freak out. She started to bleed a lot and it was just coming out of her, so she started to freak out and she apparently tried to pounce on Marlon. Marlon then pushed her over, which caused her to fall and hit her head. After this, he put Emely's body into a sack, carried her out of his mom's apartment building, which is when he was caught doing so on surveillance footage, and then put her body in the back of his car. He started driving around and then he eventually drove over to a bridge and then just threw the sack with Emely's body inside over the bridge. Again, it's just so sad thinking about how he could just throw her over like that as if she was nothing. The prosecution then argued that when he was done doing that, he called his mom to let her know what had happened and basically asked her to come help him cover up the crime scene and just make sure that he wouldn't be caught for this. So at around 1 o'clock in the morning on August 24th, Marlene went to go meet with her son Marlon, as well as with her brother Henry and the family friend Simon, to figure out what to do with Emely's body. They figured that they couldn't just leave her body underneath the bridge because she would probably be found soon, and they wanted to hide her body better. So they decided that the best plan would be to go get Emely's body from underneath the bridge, put her inside this olive green suitcase, and then leave the suitcase by the side of the road in a town that was an hour away. They figured that this would be the best way for her to not be found, and if she was found, people wouldn't be able to link her back to their hometown since it was an hour away. During the trial, they actually showed the suitcase that Emely was found in, as well as a pair of shoes and the clothes that she was wearing the day she was killed. They actually had to recreate this moment outside of the courtroom because, first of all, the pieces of evidence had a very strong smell. There's actually footage of this, and a lot of the people are holding their noses and just kind of sick to their stomachs because of how strong these items smelled. So they didn't want to do this demonstration inside the courtroom where the doors are closed, there's no windows, and it's just very stuffy and the stench would overpower the room. So they decided to hold this outside in open air because of the smell, and they also did it outside because they didn't want to contaminate any of the evidence. So they all gathered outside in the parking lot, and the prosecution literally brought out the suitcase and demonstrated how they found Emely's body and how they pulled her out of the suitcase. It was very intense for Emely's family to see this and to witness this demonstration because, I was basically watching, how my daughter was found and how she was pulled out of a suitcase, and it just made everything feel so much more real, and just thinking and seeing what their daughter had to go through and how she was found was just too much. Marlon and Marlene were also outside in the parking lot looking at this demonstration and just seeing everything up close and personal. While they were standing there looking at all of this evidence, there was also a crowd of people outside protesting and just shouting, "Killers, killers, killers," to Marlon and his mom. Now, as for their defense, they had a defense lawyer named Ricardo, and he basically said that Marlon was not guilty of murder. He said that yes, he participated in this abortion and that he is to blame for that, but he did not go into that night thinking that he was going to murder his girlfriend. What's even more frustrating is that Marlon's stories actually changed a couple of times throughout the investigation. Remember, at first he confessed to killing Emely and leaving her body in the landfill. Well, of course, when police went there to look for her body, she was not there. So then he changed his story a second time and said that Emely took a pill all by herself because she just didn't feel good and she wanted to stop her bad thoughts, but then that pill led to her death. Again, that was a lie. And then his third version was that his mom was completely innocent in this, that she had nothing to do with Emely's death, and that she just didn't participate in anything. So yeah, he changed his story 3 times, so police and the prosecution just stopped believing him. The attorney for Emely's family, Jose, honestly believes that Marlon did force Emely to have the abortion and that it did go wrong, so he figured that it would just be better to kill Emely and just hide her body. He thought that this was a better solution than taking her to the hospital and getting her the help that she needed. He also added that Marlon probably didn't expect her body to ever be found and also didn't expect this reaction from the community and from the news and from the police. Emely's family attorney, Jose, was not scared of the power that Marlene had. In court, he actually told her, quote, "Marlene, in the Dominican Republic, we are not afraid of you. Face your charges over the murder of Emely Peguero and your grandson yet to be born. Defend yourself from that, not from me." End quote. This lawyer was just very, very on it. A lot of people admire him for not being afraid of Marlene because a lot of people were afraid of her because of the connections that she had. But no, Jose was standing up to Marlene. Now, despite Marlon's confession and despite him being kind of the main perpetrator in the case, Emely's family was kind of more upset at Marlene. You know, their kids literally grew up together. Adalgisa would literally put Marlon and his brothers to bed because Marlene was busy with work. So the fact that they used to take care of her kids, but then she turned around and helped in the death of Emely, it was honestly just like a slap in the face to the family. They truly believed that this all happened because Marlene did not want her son to have a baby with a poor person. The family feels like they didn't really want to kill Emely, like that wasn't their end goal to murder her, but that it really was just an abortion gone wrong, that maybe Emely tried to escape and then they had to kill her to keep her quiet. The trial was just very intense, and in November of 2018, Marlon was found guilty by a panel of 3 judges for the voluntary manslaughter of Emely Peguero and was sentenced to 30 years in prison. As for his mother, Marlene, she was found guilty of child abduction and for concealing a body, and she was sentenced to only 5 years in prison. When her sentencing was read, the courtroom grew loud with cries of anger. People could not believe that this lady was only going to serve 5 years after what she did to Emely. Protests were held demanding that Marlene be sentenced with at least 20 years, but the ruling did not change. As for Marlon's defense attorney, Ricardo, he said that he was going to file an appeal because he truly believed Marlon's only intention was to make Emely have an abortion, not kill her. He said, quote, "For them to give him 30 years means he committed barbaric acts of torture. What he actually did was commit an abortion, which then led to a death." End quote. On top of their sentences, the two also had to pay Emely's family about 200,000 pesos. This wasn't about the money. The family just wanted justice, and they felt like this sentencing wasn't justice. What's even more shocking is that on May 15th, 2019, the Court of Appeals reduced Marlene's sentence to just 2 years. Yeah, she went from having to serve 5 years, which was, again, very low, to now only having to serve 2 years. The reason they decided to accept Marlene's appeal is because they felt like there was actually no way to prove that she committed the crime, that they could only prove that she helped hide the body, not that she murdered Emely. So that is why her sentence was reduced to just 2 years. Then in September of 2020, a judge actually ordered the immediate release of Marlene because apparently her 2 years were up. At 8:02 p.m., Marlene was released from the Women's Correctional Facility in Santiago, and she was picked up in an SUV along with 2 other cars. While she was driving away, a crowd of people stood outside the prison gates shouting, "Killer, killer, killer." So yes, Marlene is now out and about. She is living her life. You know, there are some reports stating that she now lives in the US, but wow, I just cannot believe that this lady is free. You know, she definitely deserved more than 5 years. As for Marlon, he continues to remain behind bars. However, in 2019, his conviction was slightly changed. The Court of Appeal stated that he would still remain in prison for 30 years, but they actually changed his conviction from voluntary manslaughter to now just being murder. Emely's mom says that Marlon has not changed a bit. In 2020, she did an interview where she was saying that Marlon is getting special privileges while in jail, and that even from inside jail, he got another 16-year-old girl pregnant. Yeah, what? Like, that's absolutely insane. How did a 16-year-old girl get into this prison, or how did this even happen? Apparently, Adelgisa says that the guard sometimes let Marlon leave the prison and then come back. So at this point, Adalgisa is like, well, one of my daughter's killers is free and the other killer is getting girls pregnant while in jail. Honestly, it just does not seem like justice was served in this case, and my heart just breaks for her family. Emely's brother, Eugenio, actually created a song about what happened to his sister. In this song, he narrates parts of the case, ranging from the day Emely went missing, to the day the press conference was held, to the day her body was found, etc. The song is about 4 minutes long, and it's a really, really good song. I will have the full YouTube video linked down below. The song is titled Te Tengo Presente, and it was just really emotional listening to the song and watching the music video because they included clips of Emely's case, you know, clips from the trial, the vigils of the press conference held by Marlon and his mom. Just hearing her brother sing about this made everything even much more emotional. And it's just so unfair that this happened to this young, beautiful girl, and how these people just decided to take her away from her family and from all of those who loved her so much. One line that really stood out to me from the song was, "Why did you have to do this if it wasn't necessary? You shouldn't have killed her. You took her life and a life that she was carrying." Another one that also stuck out was, "Taking the life of that baby was something a coward would do." The music video ends with Eugenio watching Marlon's press conference on TV, and he gets so frustrated just seeing him lie on TV and just fake cry and just doing this whole show that he just kicks the TV and breaks it. I mean, wow, it's just so powerful. The song was also talking about the seriousness of femicides, and this is something that Emely's family is very adamant about. Her mom said, quote, "4 years ago, it was my daughter, and by the way our justice works, there will be more." End quote, which is so impactful and unfortunately so true. There are about 200 femicides every single year in the Dominican Republic, and Emely's death was just one out of 150 deaths that happened that year between January and August. 200 femicides every single year. That number is absolutely frightening. Now, some people actually believe that that number may be even higher since not all femicides are recorded, which just makes that even scarier. While police were actually looking for Emely's body, they ended up finding the bodies of two 18-year-old girls. One of them was killed by their stepfather, and the other was killed by their boyfriend and another accomplice, which again just emphasizes how serious the situation is. You know, what happened to Emely made people think about so many serious topics. It made people think about abortion and how the law in the Dominican Republic could have played a role in what happened to Emely. It made people think about the seriousness of femicides, the seriousness of toxic relationships, the seriousness of how the wealthy think that they can get away with anything, and about the seriousness of corruption. I'm definitely thinking about those things as well. My heart just absolutely breaks for what Emely had to go through. You know, she was so young. She was only 16 years old, and she just had so much left to live and just so much to accomplish. I'm so sorry that this happened to Emely. My thoughts and prayers go out to her family. I truly hope that they are able to heal from this. But alright, you guys, with that is pretty much everything I have for today's video. I know it was a very intense video and just very long, but again, it's just such an important and serious topic to discuss. So I really appreciate you guys so much for being here and for taking the time to listen to what happened to Emely. Please don't forget to leave me a comment down below letting me know your thoughts, or if there's another case that you would like me to cover. And I would also really appreciate it if you guys could hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up, because it really helps out the channel. Okay, I think that's pretty much all I have to say. I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everyone.